G'day everyone, and today I am continuing painting this Gryphound. So, let's start off with what I've done so far. I primed him, and then I did a base coat with Abandoned Black through the airbrush, the air paint, not the normal one. And then I went through with Mephiston Red over the top and gave it a bit of a red highlight. And it's come out kind of pretty much how I wanted it to. The other day I painted this one. Both of these will eventually go up on Instagram when I feel they're finished. I still need to base this guy. I did him with the airbrush as well, but then I dry brushed his head white and did the black on his tail as a dry brush as well. So the rest was done with a normal brush, and he's come out quite nice, although I didn't get the sort of dark feel underneath like I probably should have done. So this time round, yeah, I've gone for the black underneath, I've gone over with the red, and like I say, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. If that will just focus, kind of, maybe, sort of. There we go. Yeah, it looks dope. Yeah, so just gonna tinker away at this. I've got a few minutes to do a bit of painting, so I thought you guys might like to join me. So first up, let's start blocking in a few other areas that I'm eventually going to do with some contrast colors. I think I will ultimately dry brush his head, maybe with a bit of white or some grey. Actually, let's do that first, because the problem with dry brushing on such a small mini is that you can get it on other areas. So I guess the question is, what am I dry brushing with? I feel like Wild Rider Red might be a good just sort of like final highlight with the dry brush. I was going to give him a white head, but I'm thinking that, you know what, I'll just stick with the red. Not 100% sure how this is going to turn out. We can have this adventure together. Oh, hang on. Alright, now we're good. So you can see that as I'm dry brushing, I'm coming down with the angle of the feathers, because I don't want to get it up under the feathers, I want to get it on top of the feathers. If I went the other way, it would unload some of that underneath, which I don't want. It can make a good look for if you wanted it underlit, but I want this sort of more overlit, and I want this to be the tips of his feathers, like he's been out in the sun a lot, or you know, out under something that's going to bleach it, and that's left it as a sort of highlight there. All right. Sorry about the cut there, the cut edit there. I had to do something quickly. So, but I'm back, and we are still dry brushing. We're still just going over this, building it up in slow layers. Just getting his highest points around his sort of face and ears looking nice and defined. I'm kind of happy with that. I think it looks good. I will go over it with another really pale, something really pale, a really pale red. I'm gonna just do a little bit on his tail. Because I think a little bit of red over his tail and up and down his back. Yeah, that's nice. hopefully once I go over the rest of him with a little bit of a really light red, like almost a, I don't know, maybe a pink, but maybe a little bit warmer than a pink. Sort of, you know, how to say, a little really pale orange maybe, just to sort of pick up any other points that I've missed. But I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out so far. This is just a quick video tonight. Won't be too long. Mostly just dry brushing his fur and that, and then I might pick out a few other bits. Oh, I forgot to tap those feathers peeking out from beneath his collar. I want to make sure we get those, because I forgot to do that on the blue one, and I had to go through and touch them up with a brush. Not a dry brush, but actually like very lightly tip them with some pale blue. And it didn't look as good as far as I was concerned. Yeah, there we go. Just a little bit of a highlight there. Doesn't matter if I get it on the collar and the belt, because I'm not going to see that. It'll be painted over. Okay, so cool. That's his feathers done with the Wild Rider red. And then Fire Dragon Bright. No, that's probably a little bit too much. Troll Slayer Orange, possibly. Yeah, we'll go with the Troll Slayer Orange and just really lightly give it a crack. See how we go. I was really happy with how the airbrushing turned out on the Frost Giant that I was doing the other day. Any of you that have seen the Frost Giant video or videos, come on, stick up there. Okay, it's been difficult. This is the only other issue I have with the Citadel pots, is that they do not always stay open. But that's okay, because usually I'm putting it on my wet palette and then closing the lid anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's just when you want to do something like this, where you're dry brushing, and you sort of want it open for an extended period of time. Probably can't see that on the camera, but it's come up quite nice. So I'm going to leave that at that point there with the feathers. I think I'm kind of happy with that. What I might do, I'll see how I feel about it once everything else is painted. I might take a little bit of Nuln Oil and dilute it down, maybe with some airbrush thinners or some Lamia Medium. I am all out of that, but I might have to pick some up tomorrow. And what you do is you load the brush up, you make it really thin, really watery. You don't want it very thick. And then you load the brush up, but you load up a brush kind of like this one that's got quite a fat belly on it, but it's, see if that focuses. Doesn't want to focus. Okay, there we go. Something with a fat belly but a fine tip. And then you just poke it like a needle into those areas around the feathers. You got to be really careful. If you're unsure, use a smaller brush, but you still want a bit of a belly on it. And you're just dropping. You're letting the water, or sorry, the mix between the shade and whatever your thinning agent is, you're letting it wick away into those cracks. You're not painting it on. You're letting gravity and I think, I'm not a physicist or anything, but I think it's like surface tension, pull the liquid off the brush into those crevices without actually painting it on. And the reason it does that is because it's so thin. And that's what I did with the blue one, to get right up under those feathers to make it nice and dark under there. But I'll see how I feel about it. I probably should have done that first. I did it first with that one. But I'm kind of happy with that, given that the orange has given it that little bit of a pop. Yeah, we'll see how we go. So, with his head, I'm wondering what I want to do, because I do want to differentiate his head from the rest of his body. As you can see with this guy, how he's got the white head and the blue body. Don't really want to do a white head again. That's the only thing. Maybe a grey? Maybe I'll leave him red. Oh well, look, I'll pick out his leather details and I'll have a think on it. I think this this drying tissue has probably about had it. I think we're going to have to swap to a new one. If you're using tissue paper to dry your brushes on after you've rinsed them, you probably want to use actual like tissue paper, not tissues like you blow your nose with, but like cleaning tissues like that you'd use around the kitchen, I guess. You wet them and wipe things down. They absorb water a lot better than tissues do. I don't know why normal tissue doesn't absorb water that well, but you kind of have to break the surface tension on the tissue paper to make it soak up the fluids. Whereas one of these just straight away, obviously it's designed to do that, this stuff, but just as a note. Okay, so yeah, we're going to jump into, let's say, Wraithbone. Got a little ball bearing in there to help mix it up. Makes all the difference sometimes. Oh, he's being difficult today as well. Okay, there we go. Alright, what's that like? That brush is looking alright. Drop a little bit of this on the army, paint a wet palette. I've been thinking about getting a red grass one. Not one same size as this one, but a larger red grass one. The blue palette, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like they're extra large, so to speak. And my store's got one in at the moment, sitting on the shelf. And I just sort of feel like it's got my name on it. But at the same time, they're not cheap. It's like $90 Australian, I think. But when I'm doing a big project, or a project with a lot of colours, you do sort of run out of room on paper relatively quickly. So I'm thinking maybe the bigger wet palette might be good to give it a try and just sort of see how it goes. Now there's not much detail in these claws on his feet, unfortunately, so I can't really pick them out that evenly, but I'm hoping that the wash will get into those. So I'll just keep going through and touching up each one of the claws, and then we'll see how they look after there's wash on them. Alright, so his belts are looking pretty good. I'm going to do his beak now. The Wraithbone's a good sort of base for the beak as well. And I'll probably do what I did on the other one, on the blue one, and I'll dry brush black over his beak. I'm hoping that the audio on this video isn't too squirrely, because it is pouring down with rain outside, and I've got a tin roof, so the noise just sort of travels right on in, despite all the layers of insulation. Now, it's quite windy as well. We've had some really heavy rains. We've had more rain in the last 3 months than we did this time last year. My water tanks are already full. I live off rainwater, so I'm really glad for the rain. It makes it all worthwhile when it rains like this, because even if I'm having to work in some miserable weather, I know that I've got drinking water this summer. So, just touching up his claws here. It's looking pretty good. See, now that I've done the beak, I might tip his ears black and not change the colour of his feathers. I think they actually look quite good. It just needs sometimes that extra colour elsewhere to make it sort of, make it kind of, I don't know, break it up a little bit. The collar, once it's leather, breaks up the feathers from the body. Yeah, I don't know, I might just sort of leave it, but like I said, I'll have a think on it. So this week I've got a game. I've got a Blood Bowl game with the store owner of our local store, Master Matt, and I imagine Matt will be bringing his Underworld denizens. We'll be playing sevens, Blood Bowl sevens, because even when he's not technically working, even when he's got staff there, customers come up and like to have a chat with him, or the staff will be asking him questions, and he's a really nice, friendly guy. He never tells anyone no, which is great. He's always got time for everybody. So the downside is that games are usually interrupted, but that's okay. That's why we play sevens with him, because sevens takes a lot less time and we can actually get through a game in an evening. But I would rather have a sevens game with Matt than not at all, because we've got quite a small community, and I like to sort of try and get a game with everybody and try different teams with different people. Everyone's got their own play style, and any chance to try and thrash Matt at Blood Bowl is always welcome, because with everybody else, the joke is that he rolls terribly. Whenever we're in a tournament situation, he rolls terribly. And as soon as he versus me, nothing but sixes and crunches. It's just ridiculous. He's doing something. He even gave me his rubbish blue dice, and so far, they've been rubbish for me as well. Treacherous dice. I guess that's why he gave them to me. But his new ones, on the other hand, they've been delivering the goods. The last game we played, I think he won 3-1 against me. What was I playing? Necromantic Horror against Underworld Denizens. Man, those rats are fast, man. Just like my werewolves are fast, and they're a lot more deadly, but I got 2 of them, and he had like 4 Skaven. I just can't tag them all. Alright, well, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just going to run a bit of, let's see, maybe Skeleton Horde over his claws and beak. And then that'll be it for now. Like I said, this is just a short video. I'll come back to him later. Unfortunately, I don't have heaps of time tonight, so... Although, having said that, I might post this as two videos in one. We'll see. Come on, get a bit of contrast. Oh, that's a bit much. There we go. A bit late to the party, but I found a good way of cleaning out the airbrush today for quick cleans over on Vince Venturalla's channel, his hobby tuning videos. If you're at all intimidated by your airbrush and you find it a hassle to clean it between colours because it takes too long, go watch this video he has about just that exact thing, because I tell you what, after I watched that and gave it a try, it made a ton of difference. Okay, his beak's still a little bit wet, so it's kind of blending with the contrast, but that's okay because I've still got to highlight it. I've got to dry brush the black on and then maybe highlight the tip, or highlight around it and then dry brush the black. We'll see how it turns out. It's looking alright. How's his collar? Can I put some leather on his collar? Yeah, I can put some snakebite leather on his collar. Now, I didn't intend to sort of go so thorough with the paint job on these guys originally. I was like, the 2 Gryphounds, they can just be run at the back of the party for the skirmish band and the what do you call it, the cabal, and doesn't really matter what they look like. They're just my backups in case I need extra numbers for a campaign or a game or something. But as it turns out, they're really fun to paint. Simple, but fun. I mean, really, it's only fur, feathers, and a harness. It is probably one of the more simple models I've painted recently, but a lot of fun. Now, all these little buckles and things, you probably can't see it from up there. all those little buckles, I'm going to go over those with a metallic later and deal with them later on. I'm just getting the belt done first because otherwise I'll get contrast and wraithbone all over the metallics. His metallics are a shiny red. I'm thinking of making these ones a rusted silver. Just sort of break it up a bit. Okay, well, that's the harness painted, his beak and his talons done. That's gonna have to do for now. I've gotta head off. But I'll either continue this video on into another longer video. I'll shoot a second part and cut them together, or I'll post them separately and you can see how he ends up. Like I say, I've still got to base this guy. I'm not sure how I'm going to finish off the base on him. Where is he? There he is. I want to do some skulls, possibly. I'll finish off, glue some tuffets of grass down, and then prime up some skulls, because I do have some wicked skulls. I've got the skull sprue from Citadel, from Games Workshop there. So I might end up using those. And then glue them on after everything else is done. But we'll just see. I've been looking into learning a new skill for me, not new as in it's a new concept, but for me it's a new skill, and that is building up layers for shading. Now, in the past, I've done a lot of block colouring, so for example, I'd paint this guy red, and then I'd do a wash, and then I'd do another coat of that same red, so that the wash makes the lower areas darker. Then you got the brighter red, and then you go over it with a lighter red again, and then a third red that's the highlight into the really high areas. And that can look really nice. If you jump onto my Instagram and look at the Necromantic Horror Blood Bowl team and look at the flesh golems, their flesh turned out really, really nice using that same technique. But I often see this technique where you start with a really dark colour and slowly but slowly build up really thin layers of the lighter colour, getting this gradient into the high spots. And I never really learnt it, and I keep meaning to, and I'm learning it on this Gryphound. Now, I primed him grey, I airbrushed him black, and then I did a really sort of light coat with a red with the airbrush. Hang on, if you just focus, there we go. But now I'm starting to go across, and you can sort of see some of the brush strokes if the resolution's decent. Starting to go across his back, his hindquarters, a little bit of his head. Come on, camera, focus in. Not on my hand. And you can sort of see the really bright red. That's those thin layers. That's what I've been building up. There we go. And he's looking really good. I'm really happy with it. Sorry, the camera doesn't want to focus on what I'm actually showing it. There we go. You can sort of see the difference in texture with the light hitting it on this angle between where it was airbrushed and where it's brushed. Now that texture, that visual texture, doesn't show up when you normally look at it. It's just the angle I'm holding it at. But I think we can agree that red is starting to build up quite nicely from the black legs up through the hindquarters onto his back, a little bit between his ears, and it's a really nice fade. especially from this side. I'm really happy with it, you know. And whenever I learn a new technique or I'm picking up a new skill, there we go. I always feel compelled to keep using it again and again and again on more models until I get it absolutely spot on. So yeah, here's to many more practice runs of trying to get a light fade from a dark color, and fingers crossed I do a good job. Yeah, really happy with that.